You're watching Metalcomania, and I'm your host CJ, and this is a metal discussion. One type of video that I haven't done in a while because I've had nothing to discuss. But finally, I have something to discuss, and that is basically something I hate with the metal industry, the music industry, and the metal category, and that is ignoring cities. It has to do with concerts, it has to do with records, it has to do with bands. We are absolutely sick of basically being ignored in Cleveland. Yeah, I've witnessed it since I've started out being a metalhead, wanting to go see certain bands like Metallica. That took about 10 years to even come to our city because basically Cleveland is just absolutely dead with this music scene. Yeah, I've hardly seen any bands more than once because they never come back. And yeah, I hardly ever get to see, I have never ever gotten to see a black metal show. I've never gotten to go to see a black metal show because no bands ever come through in that genre. Thrash metal a little more frequent, and death metal a little more frequent. But yeah, new wave of British heavy metal, forget it. You ain't gonna go see them at all. Iron Maiden, forget it. They haven't come here since like 2004. It there has to be other cities that also get the same treatment. But for a big city like Cleveland to get this type of treatment when we have venues out there, it's basically they're leaving their fans hanging over in these places. I get it, some venues are harder to book in, some are not. And yeah, just tell me why this is, why there's certain cities that are absolutely like passed over when you see like a concert list of, ooh, my favorite band's going on tour and it's through the United States, through the Midwest. And Cleveland is nowhere to be found on there. It's ignored completely, just absolutely passed over. And that's the thing with new bands. New bands have a lot of problems in Cleveland finding labels. Labels ignore them for where they're from. Um, there's some other places that also get this treatment, like what is it, Upper like Maine, those places. You never see any bands from like Maine or that become big. Like the big bands are from like the Bay Area, Florida, and there's just some outliers in certain cities. New York is one of them that becomes big, and yeah, like Cleveland is ignored, even though we have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, we have all this like music history here. It's just absolutely passed over, and every glance, no new artist ever rises up through Cleveland's music scene that much. And yeah, it's a shame because I've seen a lot of good local bands in Cleveland that really could break out, but they never get the chance because they're from Cleveland, and Cleveland is a very much forgotten city. And that ties into with the video that I'm going to be making right after this, which is an actual review for a Cleveland metal album that just came out. Yeah, it's quite sad that Cleveland gets ignored mostly in metal. It it took Metallica like 10 fucking years to come here, and I had to actually travel to see Iron Maiden. I had to travel to another city to see Iron Maiden. They passed up Cleveland. They've passed up Cleveland for the last like 20 years. They haven't. I don't think they've been here in 20 years. There's other bands that haven't been here in 20 years, and they just absolutely ignore us in this city. And yeah, if you're any like big band, come to Cleveland. We're we're absolutely huge in the metal community. We're big. We have a lot of people in metal here that wants to go to shows, but we never get to, or we get to when bands come through, which is like once in a blue, like I don't even know how to explain it. It just seems like every time you look at a concert list, there's Cincinnati and there's Pittsburgh, and Cleveland is nowhere to be found. There's Michigan, there's Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and no Cleveland, no that stuff. It's mostly passed over. And that's basically what it is. Like Parkway Drive, they're one of their, like, I try to see them at least, so I've wanted to see them for like 10 years now, and they have never come through Cleveland. They have, for what I've known. Or they have one, so I was like, oh, I can't go to that show. I'll go next time. They never came back. Yeah, there's some bands that will come back, like Megadeth, for example. Megadeth always comes to Cleveland. Sabaton always comes to Cleveland. Um, yeah, there's just certain bands that come to Cleveland and certain ones that don't. So, yeah, that's basically the metal discussion. What other cities do metal kind of pass up? Like, what is other cities that really don't take off? Like, if you start a band in a certain city, what is like the worst city to start a band in? Because you won't get anywhere. You'll just get the common people that says, "Oh, this isn't the city for that. This isn't this for that." And we have a lot of people that like that music. You know there is. You know there is, but nobody will actually give you a shot. And that's why I feel like I should be like doing stuff for like the like putting local stuff on my channel somewhat. I will try to do that a little while. Probably won't get that many views for it. Don't give a shit about the views for it, but this is just basically a precursor for when I do the video for Assault's The Blind Eye, the new album that came out from Assault, the band. Probably the brightest band out of Cleveland right now that probably could get some exposure, or like people could actually like find them or whatever. But yeah, Cleveland is just, yeah, there's nothing coming out of Cleveland right now that is, there's a lot of good music that's in Cleveland. There's a lot of good music that's in Cleveland, but the problem is that people outside of Cleveland never find it. Like, it's just a black hole. And it's a shame. It could, we have like the same type of, we have like the same quality of music as like New York and Florida, but nobody, or like the Bay Area of San Francisco, but nobody actually hears it. Nobody actually gets to see it. Nobody actually, no label will go for it because Cleveland is absolutely blacklisted, and I've realized that for a while. And yeah, that's where I'm going to end the video because I have really nothing more to say or nothing more to rant about. Just keep that in mind that Cleveland and other places in the metal community are absolutely blacklisted from certain stuff, and mostly live shows and exposure with records and EPs and all that stuff. So I will see you guys in the next video, which will be up shortly.